Hi, Amy.
Well, hello, Coach. How are you?
I'm great.
Good. I'm so glad we did a different intro because I was just told that there is a kid on your team that can do a perfect rendition of my hello and welcome to the Serra, which I didn't even realize I was doing for the last, 3 seasons. So better intro.
Better intro.
Yeah. How are you? I'm sure you're having a really, really good week.
So far, yeah. I mean, what's sad about, I actually saw a fan, some fan at Serra in downtown, and they're like, oh, great game. And I was sitting there going, man, what a cruel game, because I mean, a cruel profession in a way. Mm-hmm. Because while I'd love to sit there and just celebrate, you can't do that. I mean, it wasn't, but 6 hours. I'm like, oh man, Central Catholic. It's horrible.
It's true. You're right. I mean, it's like, there's a couple of things, right? Like, first of all, you remain extremely humble, and, you make sure that your team is as well. So your wins, although you celebrate them, you can't go, showboating and going crazy over them. But this one was a very big win, a 28-0 score against De La Salle, a game that was on the top 10 national watch list for high school. Second week in a row, actually, Folsom was as well. And so, I mean, it was definitely watched by a lot of people. And so it was a very, very grand stage, as it always is when you play the Spartans, the mighty, mighty Spartans, right? Yeah. So why don't you take us through that game? I know the beginning and the end were very different, and it kept us all excited the entire time. I
would say what I'm most proud of is some of the feedback I got from my Spartan friends.
Nice.
That I went to school with or coached with, or they coached me, or teachers that just said they were just so proud of the environment, and they could feel all this positive energy from the entire day. Obviously, we had we had a Spartan pass and a Padre pass, and the celebration of the life of those two people, Jennifer Fideli, right, and my buddy Pete Shea, Buck Shea. It just, there was an aura about the stadium. Someone mentioned that they were walking up from the Elks, and there was a stream of cars and a stream of people walking in, and they're all wearing green and the blue and gold. And someone told me that they stopped on top of Alameda and just looked down, and they just felt like this energy about the stadium that was super positive. And at the end of the day, that's what high school football is all about. Absolutely. This is a developmental stage in our kids' lives and families, and football coaches are like, and I like to think of myself this way, is we're hosting a party, and no one wants to go to a bad party. Like, we want to go to a good party. And I think before we get into the game, I just wanted to state how impressed I felt, and then everyone felt with Joe Murphy's music. We had the music going.
It's so good.
The flags of our WCL opponents, which not everybody loves, but I
love them. I think it's really cool. I really do.
Some of the Padre players may not love, seeing a Bellarmine flag.
It's welcoming, though. It's welcoming.
It is, and it's all part of the environment. And I think that day we nailed it.
Definitely. I really do have to say, it's obviously your connection being an alum and having, some of your best family friends, that are still currently on the De La Salle, side. The camaraderie between the two teams, even though, once it gets to game time, I know it's a little bit different, but there's a huge respect for both programs, and it was very evident, even the way that the fans greet the fans, right? I mean, 100%. Not just, in those that know a Spartan or a Padre. I mean, it really, everybody was happy to be here. Favorite, pastime, and people have respect for each other. And like you said, at the end of the day, it's about people, right? Yeah. I mean, it's about the lived experience on and off the field, and the people that we love and cherish and commemorate.
Sure, and the mutual respect. We're two all boys schools, just on different sides of the water. All boys Catholic schools, similar values, similar leadership, and just that feeling of it's a unique game that way, because that unique respect it's palpable. You can feel it, right. And we went, I thought it was cool because the WCL tradition is to get to the hash marks and shake it up with the other team. So even during the national anthem, I'm like, De La Salle, come on over here, line up we'll shake it up afterwards. And it was like a end of the game line.
I saw that.
I was like, that's not what I expected, but just that shows you that, the Padres and the Spartans just have so much respect for one another, built over decades now, that it was really, really cool to see. And this is what, to me, it was the kind of the pinnacle of high school sports. It's the height of sportsmanship, the height of mutual respect, the height of gameplay. Just it was I don't know. It was one of my favorite days before the day even kicked off. So I think we could start with that. Now, you asked me a question about the game.
I did. Before you go on, I do want to say it was also very cool to see Mercy and Notre Dame cheerleaders on our side, and Carondelet does De La Salle's. I mean, it was a really a blend of a lot of schools, a lot of great communities. So.
Right, and a lot of people. We play Saturday afternoons. It's a rare thing, and we've talked about this on this podcast. I personally love it. I love it. And when the lights come to Serra, which someday they will. I'm not counting the days yet, but someday the lights will come. For me, there'll be something lost. Definitely a lot gained, but there'll be something lost in that magical, just the way that the daylight flows through. And I don't know, it's all I know,
right?
Being a Serra Padre, but there's something magical about what we call Helios, the sun ripping through the shadows. And there was actually a cloud cover that day, so it was nice, 70 degrees.
It was nice.
It's just perfect. So I'm very pleased with how that went. Obviously, the just kind of the memorial and having Coach Bob Laddiser, who coached me at De La Salle, standing out there with me, with Justin, who he coached both of us, standing out there with me, with us, with the Shea family, the Fideli family. And I think there was a cathartic experience that the Fidelis and the Shays had because they were sharing a similar loss. And I know from speaking to Michael Fideli that there was just something warming knowing that we're not alone.
Right.
And I really wanted them to feel that. Like, we're not alone, you know? So sadly, when Jennifer died, it was like, okay, well, we can't just do this for Buck Shea now. Like, we have to honor everybody. And this was what's really cool. This is why I love this community is I got a call from Buck's brother, Mike Shea. And he said, I talked to my mom, Kathy Shea. Like, I grew up with these people, like, since I was 8 years old. 8 years old. And they said, you know, we know about the loss that your player just suffered, and we don't feel right doing this. We don't feel right.
That's amazing.
I get a call from Mike Fideli, and he's like, you know, we can do this another time. You know, this is a day that you had set for a long time to honor your friend. And I go, you know what? I love it. And I told Mike Shea that I was going to get a similar response from Mike Fideli, and there's like the opposites are true.
That's amazing.
Neither of them would have allowed me to cancel either side, and they were so deferential to that. I don't know, man. It's just
you did a great job of blending like just the spirit of both of them. I think that everybody learned a little bit about these two wonderful humans that were gone far too soon.
Yeah.
And you know, it really did.
It was live like Pete and give it all you got. And what better message for all of us every day? I mean,
100%.
Living like Pete is living free, and you know, kind of that world traveler experience. Like, just go do, you know, and believe in yourself is what I take from Live Like Pete. He was the most confident human being I've ever met. Ever in my life. I mean, he'd have a thing of mayonnaise. He was eating a sandwich at high school and a thing of mayonnaise on his face. And I would have been like, oh my God, how many people saw that? Shoot, did that girl see that at Carondelet? Like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. He'd just leave it there. Like, this is me. You better love me because this is what you get. And there's so much lesson in that. Just that self-belief. And then Jennifer Fideli fighting cancer for 16 years and all the years before that, living a healthy life where she gave it all she got every single day. Give it all you got. So, you know, before the day even kicked off, it was already a win for both teams. Sadly, one team has to win in a football game.
That's true.
And I thought our defense was just absolutely off the chain, spectacular. Again, I waver with celebrating because we have hopefully many more games to play. But if we were to take a snapshot of a day where just the forces of everything coming together from great mind share from Coach Monsef and our defensive coaches and, you know, the guys we've had on varsity for 4 years that are mostly defensive players and the love they have for one another and the perseverance of some terrible field position and holding them inside the 5-yard line and all those things. For the fan out there, you just see a tackle, but for the football coach, the magic of piecing all those 11 things together is absolute. It's an absolute tapestry of brilliance when all that comes together. And to be able to pitch a shutout against De La Salle, you know, people just remember that score. There are a lot of things that went into that, but it hasn't only happened twice since 1979.
That's incredible.
Right. So, and this was all told to me after the game, but in 1979, De La Salle got shut out by Salesian, I think 31-0. In 2005, De La Salle got shut out by Clovis West 7-0.
Oh, wow.
And then this year, it was 28-0 for the Padres. So.
Even 7-0 is not, like a shutout like that. It's 7-0 is a low scoring game
sure.
to begin with, right?
Yeah, that was a throwback game there.
Right.
But this was, and there's a lot that goes into that too. So they had 41 offensive plays. Wow. So 41 offensive plays for those of you that don't know football is not a lot of plays.
Right.
So how do you not get a lot of plays? You don't get a lot of plays if the other team has the ball. So we were driving the ball just very, very well, including a 99.5-yard drive, which, by the way, I have to mention, we were 1 for 4 on special teams. We were 4 for 4 on offense, 4 for 4 on defense. So we were 9 of 12. Okay. 4-8. Yeah. We were 9 of 12. So that's what is that 75%? I'm sorry. Yeah. 3 of 4. Yeah. It's 75%, which for our goals, if you hit 75%, you probably have a good game unless you're 0 for 4 in one category.
Right.
We almost try to go 0 for 4 in special teams, and that's not good. And I will highlight the effort of Jaden Green on the punt that was spinning around on the 1 yard line. He was playing corner. He wasn't even back there. Mm-hmm. And I think if I can remember properly, but the moral of the story is, one of our Padres fell and another one was there to pick him up. Cause if the green team falls on that's a 1-inch touchdown. It's 7-0 De La Salle.
Oh God.
As opposed to the great hustle by Jaden to pick up his brother that, we've learned from this mistake. I did not coach punt return team well enough this week. That is my fault. 100% my fault. And I left one of our Padres out there to dry. It's bad coaching because I never taught that situation. There's so many situations in football that need to be taught, and I didn't teach it, and I take ownership for that. It's my fault. With that said, the ball's spinning around on the 1-inch line. I'm going, here we go. It's 7-0 De La Salle in a back and forth crazy game. A lot of people would say it's boring. I was like, this is great. This is defensive football all the way.
I don't think anyone thought it was boring. It
right,
was like,
true.
it was nail biter.
That's right.
At times.
the hits and the effort and the enthusiasm and Coach Allenbaugh, both of us had weeks where we're like, we need to get our teams tougher. And we did.
Right.
Both teams played out of their minds, tough game.
Oh, definitely.
And Jaden fell on the ball, and that led to a 99.5-yard drive. We had 2 4th-down conversions, and we had, I think, 68 plays, and they had 41. Those 20 plays, we have the ball. They don't. It makes a huge difference in the game. And I thought that the signature of the entire game clearly was the defense.
Oh, yeah.
MVP by far. But the offensive performance and the play calling by Coach Bell was spectacular.
So creative, so unique. Yeah.
It was. And to persevere and go 99.5 yards to go up 7-0 was the signature of the offense that game. So that's how I feel about the game.
That's great. No, there were so many things to call out that were amazing. Even Braden Augusta and Jaden Lim, they did an awesome job.
Yeah.
Maui really, he had a great game as well.
Yep.
And then of course you had the 2 interceptions by Jermaine,
yep,
that's
Jermaine
right.
Barrett, yep.
And one of them pick 6. That was the nail in the coffin.
It was. And he the first time, that when you catch an interception, you aim for your near sideline is what was taught. So he caught the first one and went to the other sideline, didn't score. And then thankfully he had another one caught and went to our sideline and scored. So he learned within the same game. You just go to your own sideline. There's less people over there is kind of the math. Or at least the thought of it is go to where there's less people. It's an amazing coaching point. So he went where there was less people, and linemen were chasing him, and I could hear Coach Mon saying, he's gone. And for a defensive coordinator to score on defense in that sort of fashion, Coach Monsef, I think we celebrate him, but that's a celebratory moment in a coaching career that he'll never forget.
Yeah.
And I'm super pleased.
Well-deserved.
Very, very well-deserved because the effort and that he puts into game planning in January. There is never an off day for Coach Mons.
I was going to say, isn't it year-round?
He's a learner. He's just a learner. So is Coach Bell. They just love football. They're learners, and their initiative is second to none. I feel so blessed to have these coordinators with me because it's hard to have initiative. Like, hey, I'm paying that guy $2.5 million. There's your initiative, man. Can't say that.
Exactly.
We're going to reduce a lot of zeros. But the initiative,
the
it is, and it's for the love of the game and the kids, and that's the payback for. I think an offensive guy wants to score 50 points, a defensive guy wants to give up 0, and that's very rare. I don't think we had any. I don't think we had any shutouts all last year with a great defense. I don't think we had one.
No.
Which means, in June, Jennings came on the field, late in the game, and we had a bunch of great plays from the bottom of the fire that held him on defense. Super proud to see that. Of course, Harrison had a great game at tight end. I think he had 7 or 8 catches.
He was great. Very consistent.
130 yards, a touchdown. So that's good to see. And Jaden Lim and Augusta and Charlie the week before, we had to replace a lot of great receivers.
Really? Because that was, the chatter, whatever, it's the chatter. People I've spoken to were like, who's going to step up as a receiver this season? It was because we lost so many last year, with our team, our 13-0 team. And so it was really great to see. They ran excellent routes. It was perfect. It looked very well rehearsed.
Thank you. And I will say that Charlie, Braden, and Jaden Lim are all baseball players. I think Charlie is. I know Braden and Jaden, big time. They play baseball. They play baseball year round. And in our philosophy is I want guys playing multiple sports because competing is better than throwing up on a track or weightlifting every single day of your life. It's important, but I want these guys out doing what they love, and those guys aren't around much in the summertime. So it's going to take time for us to gel with Milwaukee because we have guys that are receivers play multiple sports, which we support 100%. I know Greenspan missed a lot of things. He's a talented receiver, tight end for us. We have a lot of guys that play multiple sports that aren't around in the summer as much as maybe my old school traditional football self would love. But that's okay. I played baseball too. I want those guys to go out and enjoy that. So I think we'll only get better as Milwaukee continues to build trust with the receivers, and completing a pass is a difficult thing. You have to protect. The line has to be on the same page. The timing of the footwork, the timing of the routes, the trust of the quarterback and the receivers. It takes time to do that. And I think given how we run our program and operate, it's going to take, we have 5 days of spring ball. These guys aren't around much in the summer because they're playing multiple sports, and it just happened to be that way this year. So I'm hopeful that our fans and us can see improvement in our pass game as we continue to go throughout the year. Anyway, that's my thoughts to date. It's
great. And I was just thinking as you were talking about Maui, I did notice just even how organized De La Salle is when they went to the line in unison. It's intimidating. That was they were all there at the same time, 6 of them. It was I would be I'd run the other way.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Yep. They are a menacing crew. And ever since the days, basically Coach Laddister built his entire program on offensive line play.
Yeah. it was obvious there. It was a performance. So
that it was
great. Well, great. A great overall effort. It was, like I said, as a fan, it was so fun to watch. And the boys really came into their own. I know you had a really emotional chapel that Friday night before.
Yep.
Tell me how you feel the team is growing together, just in terms of their own strength and unity. Good.
So we have 2 operational weeks to measure that. I think our first week was, as I mentioned, about a 70%, 75%. I think
you said 75 for both, actually.
Yep. On the spiritual plane, it was right. It felt like a C-. It just wasn't. I told the team on Monday we labor on Labor Day. So while we were laboring in our team meeting, I told them that I'm going to sit here. I'm going to tell you that we were 9 of 12. We graded out at 84% as a team. Market improvement.
Yeah.
But what about the measurement of the soul? What is our soul of our team? The spirit. What's that measure? Nobody can really measure it. You can only feel it.
Correct.
Okay. So it felt like a 90. It just felt differently. And Danny Niu, even during the game, came up to me and goes, "Coach, this feels different, doesn't it? The spirit feels different." I go, Yes, that's what we're after.
Right.
If anything for me, that's what I'm after. I'm after this intangible result, and the intangible result leads to lifelong friendships, a marriage where there's 6 Serra Padres standing next to them, or 7, whatever the number whatever the wife allows.
However many friends she has.
And the brother, and however many, right? So they'll learn that probably. But just kind of these type of things is what the program we've built here is all about. And on that scale, it felt way better than Folsom.
That's great.
So, maybe the scoreboard doesn't always tell the truth on that. And because there is no way to measure that, is you can only feel it. But if there was a way to calculate love and relationships, and, I had a spreadsheet for that, I would say we graded out at a 90 or above on that day. Challenges, that doesn't, just because that happened this week, doesn't mean it's going to happen this week. And it can be, it's hard to get there. You can only really get there through some dark times, some pain, some self-evaluation, some analytics about yourself, about how am I treating others, hard discussions. And we had those hard discussions last week. So we have to continue to monitor that. That's my role here, is to monitor that, to make sure that we're not slipping, back into, an egotistic central kind of point of view. Any division needs to be addressed. And continue to go on a spiritual journey that can go deep. Like I've challenged the senior class. We have those 4 guys that we've talked about, our captains, which we can talk about maybe on another podcast. Sure. We have a captain's council that Rosie's going to announce on an Instagram or whatever social media post. But I think, is there a way to dive deeper? I mean, there's, I don't know, nirvana or heaven or whatever word you want to use, where we're so tapped into one another that the orchestration of everything every week feels the same. That's what I'm after. And I don't know how to get there. I don't think anyone does, but the quest for that is kind of what I'm after this year, independent of the scoreboard.
That's great. I mean, and I think you've started that with the Ohana mentality as well, right? With involving all parts of your, all facets of your team, whatever your team may be, right? I mean, this is your family, and everybody has a purpose and a reason. And so I think you're doing a great job with that. And like you said, I mean, to have a 90% on spirit right now, right, is a pretty good measure.
Sure.
Of feeling,
Yeah, sure.
So I guess my next question is just kind of how, I mean, you've had 2 big wins off 2 teams that we were all fearful of and will always be, just because.
You have to.
How are you going to keep up the focus and drive and like the competitive edge as you move to Modesto this weekend? Sure.
I would say history is sometimes our best lesson, our best guide. And if history was to teach us anything from last year, let's call it, we're in a similar situation, 2-0, big wins. Both were on the road, blah, blah, blah. That was last year. This year, the only difference is we're at home. This was the worst week we had last year. And Coach Mons reminded us about that on our staff meeting call, that it was extremely hot. I think there were some fires. And we had, done the unthinkable, and we're the best team in the history of high school football, at least in our own minds. And we practiced like that.
Well, you were tired too. That was 2 weeks on the road. I mean, not that there's an excuse for it, but I just remember I'm going back to that time. I remember that was exhausting.
It was exhausting, and you couldn't be more right. And Central Catholic does not care. This is a prideful, amazingly coached.
Danny was saying 35 on the roster.
35 on the roster.
They play both ways.
It's amazing.
Quarterback's an amazing baseball player.
Quarterback's going to Clemson. Like he would, any high school coach or football player or whatever would want this guy on their team.
Wow.
And there's the level of toughness for Central Catholic. I think that's what, if Coach Canepa left today, they'd be like, that was a tough football team. And we blinked last year and it was 10-0. It was 10-0. We had an amazing stand at the end. They made a field goal, but it could have been 14-0 before we could even blink. And so history being our guide, and it's only going to get tougher because now we're going there.
Right.
We're playing on a grass surface. It's going to be 90 degrees at kickoff. I mean, there is a lot of adversity that we're going to have to go through. Ourselves, we got to beat Sarah now. We got to beat our own selves because and we've been playing this song this year. There is no them, only us. It's Invisible by U2. There is no them. There's only us. Just constantly reminding us that there is no them. There is no them. What is them? Them is an abstract anything but us. And it can be a ranking. It could be the scoreboard. It could be anything. It's homework. It's, it's a lot of things that come into these kids' lives, but they're really at the end of the day, there's only us. And this week, that's going to be tested more than anything, to be honest with you. Being at home, having 2 of the top teams in NorCal. Now we're going to play another one of the top teams in NorCal. Right. I'm gonna tell you this right now. You watch these guys. I watched the St. Mary's game. They had 2 PATs blocked and they had a punt blocked.
Wow.
Okay, and they basically lost by 1. So do the math. They play a little bit better special teams. They're 3-0 right now. They're undefeated, and they beat St. Mary's, which is a fantastic football team. This team can beat Serra. There's no doubt about it. And I know they believe they can beat Serra.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to talk about diving into a deep spiritual plane and level as a collective football team. This is it. This is the week. We have a bye after this. We have 48 minutes to play in the bye week, and then we're on to the WCAL. So I think this is going to be a spectacular football game. I'm worried about 11. I'm worried about 3. I'm worried about 6. I'm worried about 68. I'm worried about 54. I'm worried about number 4.
You've done your homework. There's only 35 on the roster. You just named
yeah.
7.
And the worry comes from like a positive place that this, and these guys know. Mm-hmm. Our guys know, and if we don't, they're about to tell us.
Right.
And that's what I love about football. It's like, here we go.
Well, I was with some of your guys today, and they are well aware of the challenge that they're up against this weekend.
Good. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah. So if you had to choose like 3 areas that you really want to work on before WCAL starts, what would it be?
Well, we have to get better on special teams. And we talk about that Jaden Green play. That's the fastest way to lose a football game is through a lack of coaching for me on special teams. It's the fastest way to lose it. I mean, I think about the Niners. I don't remember. I think it was last year in the playoffs. They blocked a punt to win. It just, I mean, for me,
that quick.
it can turn on you like a Doberman. Just all of a sudden you're getting bit in the leg by this crazy dog. So I want to make sure that we shore up our special teams, and Coach Ortiz does a great job of identifying the other team and what they're good at and all those things. And just collectively as a staff, we got to be better on special teams. I'd say that's number 1. Number 2 is continue to be great or to develop our passing game. Mm-hmm. We have like 9 running backs on this roster. Like there might be 10 running. I could seriously give you 10 running backs that could start for other high schools in the Bay Area. It's usually never like that. We have a unique situation where we have a bunch of kids who can run or are talented carrying the football. So I would say, continue to develop our pass game. Mm-hmm. And then clearly number 3 is always continue developing our relationships and making sure that, no matter what happens, nothing can tear us apart. And that will always be what my main concern is. That's it. The love of each other, the love of the brotherhood, the love of our Ohana, and inviting grandmas and mothers and sisters, and getting that female energy this year was part of the spiritual madre, like building strength through the full Ohana experience. And what we're going to continue to do that for the rest of the year.
Awesome. Well, you do such a great job of that. And I mean, it's that spiritual tie that you have, consistently for 23 seasons now, made that your priority, and it shows. I mean, even at the stands, how many alumni, you couldn't even find a seat in the alumni section. I mean, it's so packed because of that feeling of belonging and family. So
we all need community, Amy. I mean, we all need community. That's why, being a part of a country club is cool, or a book club or Bible study, whatever. Just the community is what makes this world go around. Like this, like having, we're such good friends, and having Rosie pouring her heart into this podcast and being able to we love Rosie, and being able to share that with the community is what Padre football is. And hopefully our players continue to foster that, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to see a bad product. Nobody wants to see block punts.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Then I could dive right back into football, but
that's what people
they
go
together. They go together. I mean, there's like a block punt is a lack of love for coaching. Like, I can coach better. I got to be better. I got to coach up Nano to be in a position where he feels fully confident catching punts. Like that's on me. And so, and I think we're in it together. I think the players know just how much love we pour into them, and
absolutely.
And we feel the love back, and it's a great place to come every day when we kick off practice at 4. It's just a special place to be, and I'm hopeful it'll remain like that for forever.
I'm sure it will. It's a great group every year, and you have a great team. This is a very special team too. So we thank you for what you do and consistently, teach these boys. It's amazing. So we will start with, I think JV plays in Modesto at 4.
No, I think they're at 5.
Oh, they're at 5, and then you're 7 kickoff?
Yeah, it's 30 minutes after the end of the game, so I would anticipate around 7:30.
All right. Well, we will all be watching in the 90-degree heat in Modesto. But go Padres. Thank you for your time today. Yeah.
Thank you,
looking forward
Amy.
to another good game.